Winter quarter pizza with the president. And I want to thank the catering and dining services in Paul Story's area for providing vegan pizza. We got the message from the last Pizza with the President, so we hope that meets your needs. Also accompanying me this evening, and I can't find him, he's got a baseball cap on, unless he's taking it off. I'm looking for Ron Coley. Yes, my husband is joining us tonight. Great. And so, again, we're pleased to have you come out. And we have the management team here because oftentimes there may be questions that I'm unable to answer, but we go to the source, and we have the sources here this evening. So welcome. We'll get started. Uriah, you want to say something?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Is this on? Oh, it is working. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Uriah. It's super nice to meet you if I haven't met you already. And if I have met you already, good to see you again. I'm really looking forward to hearing all of your questions and getting the chance to engage with you all afterwards. I have nothing after this, so if you want to ask me more things afterwards and take me aside and all that, that would be awesome. But I'm looking forward to the questions. It's an exciting day. And enjoy your pizza and your vegan pizza.
Good evening. My name is Tim Lynch. I'm the Associate Vice President for Strategic Communication and Marketing. Not a president, but I'm playing the role of moderator or MC tonight. The questions that will be read have not been reviewed by anybody in advance other than your student leaders, ASI Vice President Gabriel Smith and Polypost Editor Olivia Lenoir. They will curate them, hand them to me. I will read it, and then the presidents will answer or ask one of the other administrators here to do so. So we'll get started. We'll get you out here at 7 o'clock. Please grab some pizza if you haven't already done so. Let's get started. Oh, and we do have a couple of folks going around with these white cards. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Someone will come by with a card and a pen. Then when it's filled out, just raise your hand again, and they'll walk it up for you, okay, and hand it right to Gabriel, okay? So please feel free to ask questions via writing them on the card. And if we don't get to all the answers tonight, the public affairs team will find the answers and we'll post them online for you, okay? So the first question, hello. My question is in regards to public transit in and around campus. Are there any current or future initiatives to not only better link our campus with regional transit, such as the Metro Gold Line system, but also to link the campus with other transit systems more directly, such as Omnitrans, to dissipate current traffic and parking problems throughout the area?
Sure. I can, mind if I take that first? Yes, so alternative transportation and public transportation has been a pretty big initiative for us this year. One of the things that we talked about in the last Pizza with the Presidents is that ASI started an ad hoc, the Transportation Advisory Committee, in collaboration with the university and our faculty and academic senate that's basically advising the university on how we can do better with alternative transportation, public transportation. We're currently working on making that a university-wide committee, so it lasts beyond. So hopefully that will give us an opportunity to kind of have a long-standing conversation about alternative transportation and how we can constantly make our university better on that front. In regards to, I think the question asked partnerships with Omnitrans and transit agencies and things like that. One of the things that we're really interested in doing is looking into how in some way we can work with local transit agencies and see how they can work better together even across counties to get to improve student service. So the Transportation Advisory Committee is currently forming a white paper on how we can improve alternative transportation on campus as part of its role in advising the university on that topic. And from ASI standpoint as well, we have some things planned for speaking with leaders in the transportation and so forth. So I hope that answers your question, whether you are a mysterious person.
Let me just add and give a kind of context and backdrop. As you can see, we are currently underway in the building of the Student Services building, which is right in front of the CLA and Pointe building. That has taken parking offline for a period of time. we have just received approval by the CSU Board of Trustees to begin the building of new student housing, which is going to go in next to what is currently the suites. There will also be dining commons that will be a juxtaposition to the new student housing. And so for the next 2.5+ years, probably longer, we are going to find ourselves in a situation that we're going to love getting on the end of this, but going through this process, it is going to require adjustments. And we're in the process of, in addition to looking at the transportation committee that Uriah just referenced, we're going to be in the process of looking institutionally and long-term in terms of how we move people around, whether it's by foot traffic, by bicycle, or by vehicle. And so as part of our campus master plan, which is going to get underway in the fall, we're going to be asking those kinds of questions. And in the meantime, we will be looking at alternative ways to get people to the campus. We're also going to be looking at ways to communicate to you as we're going through this phase of building. Last night I was at a meeting and talking to someone about Metrolink because, as you know, the goal line is planning to extend, and it should go all out to at least to the Ontario airport in the future. What we have to begin to do is to geo-map where everybody lives and the transportation that is typical for not only the students but the faculty and the staff. We need to figure out locations. What does that imply in terms of getting to the campus? You may or may not know, you've seen the construction that is now part of the 10 exit with Kellogg, where there's going to be even further expansion of that, which is going to impact the campus. So for the next 3 years, we're going to need your indulgence. We're going to need your patience. We're going to need ways in which we can find cooperative arrangements of getting to the campus. But we are also going to be looking at off-site arrangements with local areas so that we can then bring people in. So we will have a ongoing communication system set up so that we can keep you apprised. One of the interesting things when you look at the traffic, other than for the staff that are here Monday through Friday, we have periods of the days and days of the week that are highly impacted. So we are going to have to find ways to moderate what we do depending upon the demand. But that's going to continue to be an issue for us, but thank you for raising that question.
Next question, I wish we had Billy Bronco here. The question is, Cal Poly seems to lack in school spirit. How can we change that?
Well, too bad there wasn't a Spirit Week this year. No, I'm just kidding. So that's been a big thing on our agenda for this year. I hope that the person asking this question did see the Spirit Week this week. I hope that it made you happy. And if it didn't, it's only going to get better every year. Part of the goal with Spirit Week, and this is the first Spirit Week that we've ever had on campus that's leading up to homecoming. And I think the second one ever, the first in like 4 years or so, or 5 years. And so that was really a really important event for just kind of getting the entire campus together, community together. That was this week leading up to homecoming, where we had like sales in the bookstore and in food if you're wearing Bronco gear. We had plenty of events going on throughout campus, a pep rally, the university, the foundation, ASI, everyone in the campus was kind of on board with that. And so this was the first run, but I think things like that will only get better, and I think it serves to kind of tie the university in more. We really wanted to, kind of make sure that there's something in every quarter that can really engage students and keep them thinking about what it means to be a part of Cal Poly Pomona. When students kind of first get started, there's Bronco Fusion, and that's great. And then we're hoping to kind of add Spirit Week to homecoming to, feel that fire in winter quarter. And then in spring quarter, another new initiative that we're doing is a year-end event, which is looking to be a spring concert yet to be named, but it's kind of going to be a big thing in spring quarter to kind of bring everything together. And so even towards the end of the year, everyone's still happy, like, oh, Cal Poly, it's great here, let's get involved. And so that's some of what we've been doing. And then another part I just think is outreach and, trying to encourage people to be happy about being a part of Cal Poly. So yeah, but I'm always happy for suggestions on how we can do even better. But it's definitely been on our minds.
Let me just say that I've been very impressed with ASI and just the number of activities and the energy that has been represented among the ASI leadership. As president, you can probably predict how I'm going to answer this question, because for me, it's not a Spirit Week. It is the spirit of being here at Cal Poly Pomona. This is, when I think about the educational experience that you have, when I think about the clubs and organizations that you have, when I think about the care and the commitment of the staff that are part of this community, when I think about the student athletes that are both having to go to class as well as play their heart out, whether it be on the court or on the fields, we exhibit spirit every day of the week. And so, yes, we do want to make sure that we invest in other ways to bring us together and to get that rah-rah. How many of you are on that Ferris wheel? They tried to get me on that for homecoming. How many of you came to homecoming? Because, see, given the things that have been provided, Spirit is about not just ASI doing something for you to partake in, but it is also your intention about being a part of the campus. When I look at the 332 clubs and organizations, when I think about, I was just at a fraternity house. Anybody from the fraternity house that I was on Friday? And the spirit that was exhibited there. So I want us to think about it. We at Cal Poly, we define things differently. And so I want us to think about spirit in a different way, but we will continue to provide those kinds of activities. I have heard from my listening tour that they wanted more activities on the weekends. And I'm here on the weekends, and so I can appreciate the desire to have more engagement, and we're going to continue to look at that. But I want us to think not just about a week or a particular event, but I also want us to think about what it means to be a part of this institution and the connection that you feel with the institution.
Next question. What is President Coley doing to stop the possible 5% tuition increase?
Well, President Coley isn't doing anything to stop the possible tuition increase. What President Coley is doing, and her cabinet and students and the entire CSU system, is continuing to make the legislature aware that we need full funding. So we have a very strong advocacy approach, and we're all able to say why full funding by the state is essential. And so this is not because the funding, the increase is not campus by campus. It is a CSU Board of Trustees vote that determines the increase across all 23 campuses. So no single president can say, yes, we will, or no, we won't. But we do need to be part of a collective effort to impress upon the governor and the legislature as to why it is essential that we get full funding. And we want to use that full funding in order to make sure that students get the classes that they need, to make sure that students are provided the support You may or may not know that we are just in 2016-17 is the first year that we are getting pre-recessional. When we talk about pre-recessional, pre-2008 funding levels. But since then, we've added 20,000 more students across the CSU. What we want to be able to do is to not only provide you the quality education that then launches you through commencement, through graduation, but this year, so far, we have 50,000 students who've applied to Cal Poly Pomona, and we're only able to open the door to about 4,000. And so what we are recognizing is not only that we want to support you as you move through, that we provide the classes for you, but we want to increase accessibility to the quality degree here at Cal Poly. So you'll continue to hear more about that, and I'm so pleased that that question has been raised.
Next question. What is the most successful issue among students that has been resolved this year?
Well, where do I start? Let me just say there are a lot of the issues that were raised through the listening tours and also through my conversations with Vice President Jarnigan, our provost, our ASI president, vice president, and the board. What we heard were a couple of things. 2 years ago, we recognized that a number of students did not go to summer school because the cost of summer school there was a differential in the cost of summer school. So last summer, working with Extended University as well as the provost and others, we were able to provide summer school cost at a comparable rate as state cost. And we want to continue to do that because we know that this helps facilitate your ability to graduate. We also heard that students were concerned about some of the policies, the unintended consequences of various policies. And so we've started to look at that. One example is a student says, I came in undeclared. The policy is by June 30th, I've got to declare a major at the end of my first year. Well, some majors don't let you know until August. And so what we're wanting to look at is how can we make sure that that unintended impact is addressed. We also heard students clearly say that there were classes that you were unable to get into. And so with the excellent work of academic affairs, the provost and the administrators and the faculty and the staff and the colleges, they've begun to look at what classes have pent-up demand, who's on the wait list, and how do we begin to open sections for these students who have been waiting. In the past, we scheduled only a quarter at a time. We're now going to have a full year schedule available for students so that you begin to make plans for the courses that you need to take. We are also have heard that sometimes students who are changing majors, they're not quite sure who they go to. So we are looking at providing within each of the colleges resources so that you will know where to go. You are at the center of our thinking. We're always trying to ask ourselves, what can we do to make sure that we facilitate the matriculation of our students, but also how do we make the process, how do we make just the, you've got the policies and you've got the rules and the procedures. How do we begin to make those easier to navigate? So it's not a one-time only, it's a continual improvement mindset that we have. We've also heard from the faculty that we need to hire more faculty, and we are doing that as well. So These are just a few of the things, and this question was not a plant by the president. But whoever raised that, thank you very much for raising that.
I planted that one. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I agree with everything that President Coley said. I think that the university has been a great partner in accomplishing a lot of these really big student concerns. From the direct ASI perspective, it's kind of hard to answer what's the most significant student issue. I mean, I think that might differ for a few different people, and we've solved different issues in different spaces that may not have impacted everyone, and we've solved, very specific types of genres of things. But if I had to just kind of point one out that I think might be interesting, especially given the recent question about the potential tuition increase, I think one thing that we managed to change this year that will have a lasting impact on the campus community is the creation of the Governmental Affairs Committee. So in the past, ASI, we have a lobby corps, if you all have heard of them. And lobby corps is basically student advocates who advocate for things like, more state funding, but also for policies and bills and so forth that benefit the students that we serve. However, not every year is a lobby corps put into place, and oftentimes lobby corps doesn't necessarily have all of the guidance necessary for it to be successful in the political landscape. So this Governmental Affairs Committee, in partnership with the university, ties in the University Director of Governmental Affairs and the VP of Student Affairs, thank you, alongside with a more stable process that causes us to have advocacy efforts sustained for every single year, and also adds 2 new positions that will support advocacy efforts in really big ways. So I feel like moving forward, once all of this gets kind of wrapped up and put together by the end of this year, I think that ASI's advocacy efforts will be a lot stronger, and I think that that's something that will benefit all of us, because advocacy is kind of basically why your student government is here at the core of it all. So yeah. But we've done a lot more of other things too.
Next question, changing gears here. What does CPP plan to do with the land entrusted by the state on Temple and Pomona Boulevard?
I assume you're referring to the Lanterman, formerly the Lanterman property. That property provides the opportunity for Cal Poly Pomona to engage in short and long-term partnerships with the surrounding area, as well as build upon the strategic plan and the academic master plan that is underway. And so we are, and when you think about the process that we will be using, the first was that the state made the land available to us, and we said that we would hold that as an option for several years until we could determine what the opportunities as well as the challenges are with that property. This property, as you can imagine, many of the buildings built in the 20s and so forth did not have the same kinds of codes and other requirements for building that we now have. And we also recognize that some of the buildings have been deemed as of historical nature. And so when the state or federal government deems a building's historic nature, we then have to determine how do we continue to represent the history of that building. Can it be torn down and a model built somewhere? Do we have to keep the facade of the building? And so we're now in that stage of what we call pre-development, beginning to look at what the options are relative to the use of that or the condition of that property. In the meantime, we also want to begin to enter in conversations not only with our colleges and our other divisions about what the potential is, but we also want to, the city of Pomona, the city of Walnut, the city of Diamond Bar, we want to find out, are there ways in which Cal Poly Pomona can continue to have economic impact on this region? Are there things that we can do? For example, We may have zones that would include veterans housing, housing for single parents, affordable housing, housing for faculty and staff. We might have another area that would invite companies to come in and provide internships and work opportunities for our students. We might have another area that's a play area, so it may be a work, live, play concept. But in thinking about that, we always have to determine what would be the financial impact on the university, because we would have to assume the cost for those things. And so it will only work if we can enter into what we call public-private partnerships. And so we're beginning to have those kinds of conversations, not committing to anything, but just having conversations with the city, with, when you think about Mount SAC, between Mount SAC and Cal Poly Pomona, we have close to 100,000 students. Mount SAC has, I think, about 60, and it may go up to 80,000. We have 23, 25,000, and we will certainly grow over a period of time. So 100,000 students within this geographical area. So what are some of the things that we can think about with Mount SAC that ends up having a benefit for both institutions? So while we are in the pre-development stage, which will continue through the summer and possibly longer if need be, we then will go into the development stage. The development stage is we've decided to retain it. The board has approved us to keep it. And then we will be putting out what we call requests for quotes or requests for proposals from companies, from developers, to work in partnership with us as we make sure that we are committed to the academic mission, that it serves the university well, but it also provides regional and economic impact on the area. So there'll be a lot more engagement and thinking through this once a decision is made to retain the property. It's a beautiful piece of property, and we see the future of this area, the Inland Empire, this general area, as one on a trajectory of growth. And so we certainly don't want to mistakenly say no, but we also want to go into it with our eyes wide open.
Next question. Where does the university stand in relation to its students and the Trump administration?
I think that's an excellent question. I'm not the university, so I can't technically answer that, but I am ASI, so I can tell you I can tell you where I stand. ASI hasn't taken an official stance. So the question was on Trump's policies towards its students? In relation to our students in the Trump administration. Question is a little vague. However, I can get an idea of some of the things it might be referencing. I think that there have been some concerns about some of the immigration policy that's been coming from the federal level, definitely. And on that level, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to support our students no matter what. You all should have received an email recently. Or not yet? Yes, okay. You all should have received an email recently that a Dream Center has just been created. So that's a great thing that I think is our way of serving the undocumented students on campus, and it definitely shows that we stand with our students no matter what. Regardless of what's going on at federal level politics or at any other level of politics, I think that our students should always know that, Cal Poly Pomona, I would hope so, and definitely myself as your representative stand with you no matter what, and that we'll make sure that you're protected. We'll always fight for you to make sure that you can afford your education, that you have, whatever it takes for you to be able to combat, whether it's food insecurity or whether it's your concerns about immigration or, how you're going to apply to certain programs. We're very committed to maintaining those services and making sure that you have everything you need here. So if it's in regards to, the future of higher education, as I said before, we've been strengthening our advocacy initiatives so that we can, regardless of what the policies are, fight for policies, fight for state funding that the CSU system deserves. If it's in regard for immigration policy, that's another thing that our lobby corps, that our governmental affairs committee will focus on advocating for on behalf of the students. And if it's in regards to things like food and housing insecurity, we've been taking steps on that as well and are looking forward to several projects and initiatives. So, I'm not sure who asked that question or exactly what it is about the Trump administration that may concern you, but regardless of what it is, it doesn't really change how you'll be treated by this campus, from my perspective, because I'm not the campus, but from me.
Let me just say that regardless of who's in the presidency, we are singularly focused on providing you with a quality education, with demonstrating that this is an inclusive campus, demonstrating that we want you safe, demonstrating that we want to engage in dialogue that may reflect different viewpoints, but fundamentally, our focus is on your graduating, your having and feeling proud about the education that you get here at Cal Poly Pomona. Now, yes, the entire CSU system has to react to various policies or orders that may come out of the federal government, and we will be guided by our values. We're going to be guided by our vision, and depending upon what we hear from the state, because as a public institution, we are under the laws and requirements of the state, but fundamentally, the CSU system is committed to continuing to provide the educational experience that says you matter, that says that we welcome students from all backgrounds, that we respect and in fact grow as a result of the diversity that is reflected on our campus. And I've had an opportunity to talk to various student populations that understandably are anxious about some of the things that are coming out. Vice President Jarnigan and I met with students this week, and one of the things that I pointed out to them is that every day your challenge is going to be how to balance hope with fear. And you're going to need one another in order to offset the fear with the hope. Because one morning you wake up without any specific information or specific evidence, but just hearing what's out there on the airwaves, it may engender fear. Another person wakes up and they're going to say, it doesn't matter. I'm going to achieve the goals that my parents sacrificed for me. And so what I want are those students who have the hope and the fear to come together and support one another as we surround you with our care and concern for you. So again, I think it's important we don't react to, we cannot afford to react to every single news announcement. What we do is we stay focused, and we're very determined to do whatever we can. We talked about more classes. We talked about policies that have unintended impacts. And so that's the work for us. And I understand that it is a normal response to some of the things that are happening in this climate right now. But what I need for us to do is to work together and make sure that we keep you moving forward so that when you go across that stage, and I know many of them that we talked to this week are going to graduate this year. Our focus is on getting you across that stage, and for us sitting back with all the pride and with all the recognition of what, in partnership with your family, with yourself, with our outstanding faculty and staff, that you've been able to achieve this. So thank you for that question, but we've just got too much work to do, and we'll continue to stay very focused.
Next is a question followed by a comment. Sorry. A question followed by a comment. First, the question: would we ever get a compost program for the entire university? And the related comment: and we need more recycle bins by the Arabian Horse Center.
Okay, the second one done. And the first one around the compost, who's going to answer that question? Walter's going to answer that
And
question.
can I give a statement as well?
Oh, yes.
On it? Yeah. Or we'll both do it. So university-wide, once again, I can't comment, although I hope it will be positive. But within the BSC, one of our focuses for this year has been creating a composting program within the BSC. So within this, I think next week actually, there's going to be a waste audit in the BSC, working with foundation staff downstairs, and checking out how much waste is actually produced, how much natural waste is actually produced, and seeing if we can produce a strategy to diverse that waste into composting. So if all goes well with that, and that ends up turning out the way that we wish, then we would have one implemented within the BSC hopefully by this year. If not, then simply we would try to do our best to look for, whatever strategies we can do our best to mitigate as much of the waste as possible into composting, but, we can only do what, the physical space allows for. But definitely something on our radar within ASI. I believe the BRIC already does participate in composting, so within ASI facilities that has been definitely a priority, and we also support partnering with the university on any external food locations and encouraging them to compost, and we're willing to help.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Walter Marquez. I'm the Associate Vice President for Facilities Planning and Management. And I think what you're seeing here, and kind of what you explained, President Uriah, is that there are pockets of it that are occurring on this campus. And I think what I like about this question, it really leads to, we need to collectively bring this out and as an entire university to understand exactly what we are doing with regards to it. Now, I'll speak to it from a facility standpoint. The grass cuttings that we do, a lot of the tree cuttings that we do, that does, and we go ahead and reutilize that, and actually gets reutilized on campus as well. So there are opportunities that are occurring already. I don't know the food services, but I know from a food service standpoint, there's components of it that is going on as well. And it really becomes an opportunity for us as university to get our, unite the stories, if you will, so that you see that these activities are actually occurring on campus today.
Next, another question followed by a comment. The question: this is a very open campus. How can we improve security? I had my car stolen twice in 1 week. I was surprised to learn just how easy and open it is to do this on campus. I want to know how the college can do more to prevent this. Even with locked doors and security measures by myself, I don't feel safe parking here.
I'm going to ask the chief to take that, but let me just say that we do need to make sure that we all are engaged in safety here on the campus. I just want to reference that a couple of weeks ago there was an incident that occurred at Kellogg West, and I had conveyed this to Paul's story, because as a result of the staff seeing something, they said something. And we were able to intervene in that situation. That doesn't preclude us from doing everything we can to create safe environment, to create measures that help us to feel safe, but we also have to work together to make sure that if you see something, you say something. And where there are areas or pockets, then you need to let us know so that this can be examined and we can try to reinforce the things that we're already doing. So I'm going to ask the chief to continue with that
Thank you,
question.
President Coley. Chief Robinson here at Cal Poly Pomona. My apologies, first of all, to that person who had their vehicle stolen. When I was a student here, I had my vehicle stolen as well, so it's a horrible thing. We are doing everything we can to ensure your safety. One of the things we've done is we've added public safety specialists, more non-sworn officers that are also out there, helping with our eyes and ears to get information to us. We're working hand in hand with the IT department, and we've added more cameras throughout the campus. But what we are doing also is adding extra patrols, throughout the day and throughout the evenings. You're right, this is a very large campus, and the way for us to handle it is to continue to grow as a police department and continue to offer the services that we do. But more important than that is, like President Coley said, if you see something, say something. We depend on all of you also to be part of our eyes and ears to inform us of what you see. If you see something that's suspicious or something that looks out of the ordinary, please, by all means, call us. For right now, like I stated earlier, we have increased our patrols and we've increased our personnel to try to add to your safety and to add to these type of things that we see occurring. With the added structure of PS2 along with PS1 and the cameras coming into play that we've now gotten online, we are now able to see a lot more on the campus, and we are targeting these specific incidents that you're speaking of when it comes to vehicle theft.
Next question. One of the things I've seen is the lack of bike racks and lanes on campus. Are there any future plans to provide more resources for the bike community on campus?
The short answer to that is yes. As I mentioned in earlier remarks, as part of the campus master planning process, we are going to ask that this process include not only how do pedestrians move, but bicyclists, cars. How do we all navigate this pretty confined space? I believe we already have some additions to bike racks. I think we put one up near the College of Business, but this is clearly something that we want to take a look at. It right now, if you think about the walking from the CLA building over to up towards the library, it's a very contained space. It's in fact a very small space for even pedestrians to walk during the lunch hour. And so we want to make sure that we can safely allow the pedestrians to move, but then how do we allow the bicyclists to move around the campus? I've seen some individuals who have skateboarded, and I'm sure that too, but most of the skateboards, I would say so far that I've seen, have just been on University Drive, not on the sidewalks, although I've had an opportunity to interact with one young man who was on the sidewalk as I stopped my Bronco One and talked to him. But clearly we understand that we want to do everything we can to allow the flow of traffic. I want to ask Walter to just give an overview with regards to current status for bicyclists.
Thank you. The way the campus is structured right now, as you're aware, if you have been on the south side of the campus over here, right, there's the bike path that begins right here or ends, depends on which way you're traveling, and leads you over to where the baseball fields are. That is a bike path. It is the appropriate size bike path with regards to it has to be wide enough to allow for pedestrians and cyclists to maneuver safely through them. And it also has to have, when we talk about wide enough, it also has to have the ability to, if a cyclist needed or was about to fall, the ability to fall and actually fall and not actually hit a wall or something to that extent. So there's a safety component with regards to designing bicycle paths on campus that you have to be aware of with regards to this. And so where we're at today, and well, the other thing is that we're in between master plans. And so if you roam around the campus a bit, you'll see these red signs, and they'll tell you to get off, right? Dismount here, or I forget exactly what it says. And so it was the idea and the thought process of the past to not have bicyclists on campus as you start approaching particular buildings. The reality is of decisions of the past and how this campus operates is completely different as far as how many bicycles and skateboards we're seeing on campus today, and the safety of how we all maneuver through these spaces become very important, to which Dr. Coley was speaking to, because we've had some employees, or at least one that I'm aware of in facilities, taken out by a skateboarder. And that led to a workers' comp element, and the gentleman was out for a while. So there is a safety concern that we have to be aware of, not only for the employees, but for all of us as we all commute. Now, we have a difficult campus to maneuver through because of the topography change. When you think about how high kind of the student health center is to where we're at as we go towards the brick or where the suites are at, it's quite a slope. And a lot of times, as you maneuver through this building, you have to be careful because cyclists are moving through relatively pretty quickly. And the concern I have with regards to cyclists, sometimes you can't hear bikes. You can hear a skateboard, but you can't hear a bike. And so that then starts to create some challenges. So these are the things that we think through. The campus master plan is going to look at how we maneuver through campus, and so that we can all safely move between building to building on this campus with the idea of bicycles, skateboards, razors, and those cool little things that I've never written that you just kind of lean and you go forward. What are those called? Hoverboards, thank you. Those as well. So it's something that the campus is aware of, we're very sensitive to, but also I want you to know that we have an outside view of it as well with the city of Pomona. The city of Pomona has now their bicycle master plan intact. And so you now have seen a bicycle lane on South Campus. And so we're looking externally as well to make sure that you're able to get on campus as you come through the cities and then again getting on campus.
Thank you for that question. It will get on the list. And it is something, again, I want you to, and I'm serious when I say that we collectively are part of this campus. And so when there are things that are problematic, we need to raise them. We can't necessarily address it right then and there, but it does get heard. And so I know that the staff have done a great job of, for example, trying to reduce the potholes that are on University Drive. During the breaks, they try to go and fill these holes. That's one of the challenges that we have, again, with the rain, but also when we have heavier vehicles that are traveling on the campus. So we will, I'm sure people are hearing this, and so we will make sure that that is looked at. And thanks again for for raising that.
Next question. How will we improve the Bronco shuttle systems to allow more frequent stops at each location, specifically at times when parking lots fill up? And before we get to the answer, we have about 5 more minutes, so we'll take maybe 1 or 2 more questions after this.
The question was around the Bronco shuttle.
How do we improve the system to allow more frequent stops at each location, and specifically at times when parking lots fill up?
We're continuing to do a study of the Bronco shuttle. I know that there have been some changes made with the opening of, and I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction or not, but the opening of the new parking structure. We recognize that we want to have the shuttles to coincide with the demand of student ridership, but also of faculty and staff. I heard that some staff felt that the Bronco shuttle wasn't something that they could ride. And so what we want to make sure is the Bronco shuttle is for everyone. And we want to have the shuttle be a service to you, a service to your getting to and from your the parking structure or parking lot to your classes and to the buildings. And so we'll continue to take a look at that, and we'll have some tests just to make sure because sometimes class times can increase the demand, and so we need to monitor that quarter to quarter. And so I'm sure that the individuals who are responsible for that are hearing this question and will respond accordingly.
Okay, this probably will be our last question for the evening as we eat pizza. Will we have healthier food options on campus instead of just fast food?
Yeah, as we eat the pizza. One of the things that we had thought about doing towards the beginning of the year that perhaps we could prioritize a little more again was kind of creating, looking into what students actually want on campus as far as like options for food, and kind of implementing a policy for, right now we kind of have things established, at least in the BSC, which is what I can mostly speak for. But, as things change, at least we know like what to get next. Whenever there's an option, we know like what the next service to bring on board is based off of what we've heard from the students. So taking that into account and seeing that that's something people are really thinking about, I'll kind of up that on the list of priorities and make sure that that gets done so that we kind of have a framework to work in as far as like what types of venues we would like on campus. Yeah.
We'll continue to look at this, and one of the things that's exciting is, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be building a new dining commons, and in fact, that will open up for the campus to engage in these kinds of questions, make sure that we hear from students, but we also want it to be a place that faculty and staff will enjoy going to, and so we will use the planning of the commons and the content, what we'll be offering as a way of addressing some of this. When I go over to Los Olivos, I find a number of healthy options, and I think that they are interspersed among some of the other desired foods. So it's really a balance, and we do want to make sure that just as we have diversity of thought, we have diversity of taste. And so we want to provide options for you as we continue to serve you. So I know that Paul and his staff will certainly be looking at this as we go forward with the commons.
I think that'll wrap up Pizza with the Presidents. I want to thank Presidents Coley and Sanders